This is a very interesting development for the Bears as fantasy managers and players from around the league are projecting this receiver to go off next year and be the top dog in the Bears offense. And welcome everyone to the Bears Digest Media channel. I am your host Gabriel Vázquez once again. Thank you for joining me. Last year, there were a couple injuries that hurt the Bears offensive core. A lot of those players were wide receivers, and one had to step up in a big way. And that player is Luther Bergen, who was a key piece of that Bears offense, especially that receiving room. He was one of the only players that stayed healthy and was Caleb Williams' top receiver towards the end of the year. His playmaking ability to get yards after the catch and even his ability to juke players and run for yards is a big reason why he can be a huge piece for this next coming year. And that kind of goes exactly to this video today, guys. I'm really excited for Luther Bergen to get going this year in training camp and throughout the season after the loss of DJ Moore. Now Odunze and himself have to step up as a top two receivers now that one of our guys was lost. So I think it's going to be a huge way to get going. And in my opinion, Luther Bergen has the ability, the talent, and his football IQ to get to that point because he is simply one of not the best receivers in the league, but one of the better rookie receivers to come out of that draft, and simply was a steal. I remember him being drafted. I'm like, this is a low-key steal pick. I'm really surprised we got him. Did we need him at that time? Was he like a necessity pick? No, absolutely not. Odunze had coming off a good year, and we still had DJ Moore, and at the time we had Cole Kmet. So nothing crazy out of the ordinary despite him living up to that expectation and being that backbone type of receiver that we had with those two guys. But y'all, before we get to any far in today's video, y'all already know this video is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 picks app, and like we said before, it helps to get in all the action. We'll dive into some more crazy and awesome promotions later, guys, but make sure to download the link in the description and the pinned comment and use code DIGEST to sign up today. New users get $50 off instantly in their lineups when you're playing your first $5. Like I said before, guys, it helps the channel out a ton, so jump on it. Get on Prize Picks today. It's our sponsor every time, you guys. We love Prize Picks, and we'll get to more of that at the end of the video. But back to Luther Bergen, you guys. Yes, huge step up from last year. I think Luther Bergen is going to be a tremendous outbreak from last year. I think he's going to be a tremendous player, a huge playmaking ability. And he could really get to that wide receiver one role if Odunze does not step up himself. And that kind of goes into our first article we have here, you guys. We're going to go with the image top left to get you more of the article here. But like I said before, like I mentioned, after that trade with DJ Moore to the Bills, there's been a lot of talks about the wide receiver room and who has to step up now that DJ Moore, who was primarily our #1 guy, you could argue next to Odunze, but he was our guy. DJ Moore was our scoring threat. He was like our third down guy. So from him gone, there's not a lot of pressure, but there is some pressure going into this year with the wide receivers. Now, I think the confidence that Luther Bergen has, there is no issue that he can be that top dog. He definitely showed it last year towards the end, like I mentioned, with all the injuries the Bears had to Odunze, to DJ Moore, to some of our tight ends. Like, I think that him stepping up in that big way has proven to Ben Johnson, especially in his offense, that he can be the top dog in this receiving room and maybe even that #1 guy and possibly a top 5, top 10 receiver in the entire league. That chemistry that him and Caleb Williams had towards the end of the year was unmatched. He was throwing deep balls to him. He was catching touchdowns because Luther Bergen wasn't a touchdown guy. He was more of our third down guy to get more yards after the catch and using him more into like a cross routes or like screen routes. So for him to have that it factor, like it says towards the end of that article there, when Jason McCourty mentioned, he has that factor in him. He has that ability to be great. He has that skill and that talent to be there. He had some solid numbers last year, which we'll pull up in a little bit. But I think with Ben Johnson's offense and what he uses, it was a huge piece for him last year because we had other receivers to help him out or back him up. Now it's a little different because we don't have that Luther Bergen from last year because he's going to take over that Odunze or DJ Moore role. So it's going to be a lot to see what Ben Johnson does, but you have him there, and he has that playmaking ability, that juking he has, his speed that comes along with it. He can be a solid wide receiver run, and I was very impressed with Luther Bergen last year and his ability to make plays and keep the offense going. And that kind of goes into this quote last year. Again, like I said, basically being a part-time player, he struggled with common rookie mistakes like we all do, but at the same time, I don't know if I agree with that because he recorded an impressive rookie record that we haven't seen since A.J. Brown in the past 15 years, 2.92 yards per route. That's exactly what we need. We need fast players to get the yards after the catch, as we say in football, yak. That's what we need out of this team because DJ Moore was a very reliable receiver, but he wasn't in his prime. Odunze was hurt for a couple of games, more than that to be honest, so we couldn't rely on him. But a young, studded Luther Bergen who is not in his prime years, but he can get there as soon as possible, maybe even quicker than we think he can be because of how elusive he is. But if he's in the same category as A.J. Brown, I mean, what are we arguing about? He can be one of the top receivers in the league. I know the receiving room is stacked with amazing receivers over the past 5-10 years, but when you look at this guy's playmaking ability, you look at this guy's route running, his speed, he has a lot of that talent on him that a lot of rookies didn't have last year, or even a lot of receivers that are not getting that chance. And Luther Bergen's taking that chance on him, and he's making it the best of him. So I think he's going to be a very, very reliable piece in this offense, and I think he's great. And to pull up the stats for you guys, you can argue that his receiving yards are kind of jumbled all over the place and say that they're not eye-opening. Well, of course they're not eye-opening because that's not what he was used for too much last year. Like I said, we had Odunze and we had DJ Moore, and those two guys were our top receivers. So he's going to be 44th in receiving. He's going to be 60th in targets because they weren't on him like that. He wasn't the top guy to target, to receive, to catch, at least in that category. Now, one thing that stands out in that is his receiving yards in general are a lot because he did a lot more than just catch the ball and drop and just get a first down. No, he added more yards after the catch. He made moves. He created separation and that cushion that allowed him to get more yards and really helps the team and the offense more by driving down the field and getting closer to the end zone. And that's exactly what his advanced receiving stats is because if you go down the list, besides the very last two, he's basically top 10 in his advanced receiving, and that's a very key piece to highlight because he's not an average receiver that catches the ball and, like I said, just drops down. No, he's getting more yards. He's creating separation for himself to catch the ball, juke players around the field, and go down and get more yards and get his team closer to scoring. He's not going to score per se, especially last year. He only had 2 touchdowns against the 49ers and against the Cowboys. Again, and those were big plays that Caleb Williams threw to him, but towards the end of the year, he was targeted a lot more because he was that reliable and he got more yards for his team, especially in that offense in some cases wasn't getting yards. And in certain scenarios, I know the Bears offense last year has been better than it was in the past 10-15 years, but at the same time, what Luther Bergen is capable of doing and his young ability to create separation and juke his players to get more yards, that all adds on to his versatility and what he can do for this offense, and that could highlight a big part for next season. So I'm all for it. And when you look at that, I don't know if you're a big advanced receiving guy or not, or advanced stat guy, but for me, that says a lot because he's doing everything he can to help his team and go down the field as much as possible. So I'm all for that, to be honest. And honestly, that's exactly what we need out of this Bears offense, and he can be that number 2 guy to do that, so it can not be as common, so it won't be looked at as much to the defense, because they're going to look for that. They're going to look for a player that makes the most plays, that gets the most yards after catches, and that is really the most playmaking out of the whole team. I know Luther Bergen. Odunze is a good playmaker as well, but if he could be number 1 and Luther Bergen can be right behind him, it could be a good 1 and 2 mix between the receiver corps. So what really goes into that is his third article. We're going to go with more image top left here. Johnson used him, again, for screen plays. He's a great blocker, short passes, underneath plays, underneath passes for Caleb Williams. Not that big chunk play guy that we saw from DJ Moore or even Colston Loveland or in a sprinkle of Odunze in there. But again, with his ability, with his talent, he can definitely go up there and be that number 2 guy, number 1 guy to make big plays and really carry this offense besides the running game. He's a very, very fast young ability receiver. His catching is impressive. One thing I didn't really highlight in that stat right there was that he catches the ball. One thing the Bears struggled with basically last year towards the end and in the playoffs, they couldn't catch the ball. Odunze dropped an easy touchdown pass on their first drive against the Rams in the divisional round. I mean, that is basic receiving. Luther Bergen does not drop the ball. So it's a very key piece and a very key playmaking ability that's as simple as catching the football that Ben Johnson likes to see so that we don't have to go through that mistakes and go to basic receiving and catching the ball. So I am all for Luther Bergen. I'm all for his playmaking ability. I really think he's going to be one of the top receivers in this league. He's going to be tremendous. But, of course, comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. And before we wrap up this video, you already know it's brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, once again, is America's #1 picks app, and it gets in all the action. So we're going to go with some other picks. We're really focused on World Cup picks, but let's do Flex Friday now instead. Flex Friday is back in full swing. Boost your end of the week using your Flex Friday payout boost to get 40% higher payout every single Friday, guys. Always stay tuned for that, and let's focus on these picks. Like I said, focusing on the World Cup still. And let's do Mbappe. Let's do more goals for him. They play today at 3 o'clock. Or sorry, tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Huge game for them. Quarterfinals, trying to advance once again. And then on Saturday at 4, Norway versus New England. Quarterfinals once again. Let's do Harry Kane for over half a goal with him as well. Big implications for these two matches and for to go on to the semifinals, guys. So always stay tuned with the World Cup and Prize Picks. Remember, you get play $5 and get 50 instantly in your lineups. Use code DIGEST in the link in the description and pinned comment. But of course, guys, let me know what you guys want about American football and what Luther Bergen means to this team moving forward and what exactly his playmaking ability and his talent can mean for this Bears wide receiver room after losing DJ Moore and maybe even a struggling Odunze. So, of course, like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Bears!